hopefully more of you are going to sit down to watch the AWS keynote. So my name is Leanne Hurrell. I'm head of the UK Regional Public Sector Business. I've never actually presented in this kind of setup. It's very random. So I'm going to keep picking out the happy smiley faces that seem quite far away, like you there, sir. Thank you very much. So I'm responsible for AWS's healthcare, not-for-profit, local government and education business, which kind of may seem a bit random why I'm stood here now as someone who's representing transport efforts. From our perspective, everything to do with servicing a UK citizen revolves around the hidden secret sauce that is transport. So I'm here to kind of put into context why that's important to us as AWS. Yes, we are a technology provider, but actually I'm not here to talk about technology in the slightest. What I'm here to talk about is the child that's trying to get to school with a transport link that works, an elderly person who's dreading the trip to the hospital more so than the hospital appointment, or literally just the working mum who's got to drop her kids off in order to get to work. That's kind of what we're here to talk about today, and I think everyone in this room, you all seem driven by the same things as well. I think we've got a once in a lifetime chance as well to get it right for those of us that we serve. But I thought I'd try and put into context where Amazon fits into this. So I'm from AWS, so we're part of the broader Amazon organisation, and we have a set of leadership principles that kind of almost dictate how we hold ourselves to account across our business and to one another. We have a big focus on long-term thinking, about having a day-one mentality, which kind of sort of forces that startup mentality. Keep being agile, keep doing the right thing. And the one that surprises people the most is that we embrace failure, which actually when I first joined AWS 7 years ago, that was quite a tough gig, coming from telco land where you had to get everything right, coming to an organisation that embraced and almost encouraged failure, because then you could lean into the outcomes, was not something that happened overnight. To put that into context, in 2014 we developed the Fire Phone. It was an absolute mitigated disaster, and we took it off the shelves within a year. So you could argue, well, that was bad decision making on Amazon's part. Actually, what it spun out was the Echo and Alexa devices, which is our greatest AI assistant in many of your homes now. And that's actually servicing a number of folk that rely on AI assistance more so than maybe the human contact that we all strive to have as human beings. So the mindset that we bring when we partner with transport authorities are kind of underpinned by some of those principles that I've just touched on. It's kind of irrespective whether you are a transport organisation, part of local government, or part of the combined authorities, or a healthcare provider. We kind of try to apply the same way of working with all of you. Building productive, resilient and net zero economies and creating that healthier, happier community where everyone feels that they have a sense of belonging, again, is all underpinned by what you're in this arena to talk about and develop further with the likes of AWS as a partner. So from our perspective, when we transform against all the constraints that you've all got in this room, which is typically around cost, typically around time, and typically around resources, these are limited things that we all have in our bucket, but the desire to transform quicker and more efficiently has never been greater. So let's talk about what's already happening, and it's quite fitting that we're in Manchester right now. I feel like I should have a little bee emblem. I've let myself down not standing on stage with one of those. So the B network embodies everything that Manchester stands for. My friends, I've got great friends who live out in Altrincham. They talk consistently about the effect of the B network. If I meet them, they come and meet me on buses that actually get there on time. There's a tram network that's super efficient. I've used it myself as a Londoner. I wish we had more of them in central London. But the actual B network itself has enabled bus punctuality to jump up from 69% to 80%. Ridership is up by 5% and fares are more affordable. From a Londoner's perspective, what makes this story so incredible is that by 2028, buses, trams and trains will all be connected. That's something, living in London, we could only really aspire to have. The one seamless journey for every citizen, underpinning that fact around supporting people getting to hospital appointments, picking up kids from work, and bringing communities together by an efficient network is brilliantly underpinned by that example. From an AWS cloud infrastructure perspective, we provide the data network that connects all of those modes of transport. For transport for Greater Manchester, we bring real-time data from the buses and trams together in one place, enabling greater data decisions to be made for this network that's bringing your community in Manchester together. The numbers mean a lot from a metrics perspective, so you kind of know that you're doing a good thing driven by the numbers. But actually, if you're a parent, knowing that you can go and pick your kid up from school on a bus that's going to arrive on time actually carries a lot more weight. And from an AWS perspective, that's the kind of partnership that we want to get involved in and do get involved in because we are driving societal good. It talks to one of our broader leadership principles around success and scale brings broad responsibility. We don't just want to be a cloud provider, we want to do the things that make all of our lives far richer. Again, talking to the transport network, when that works efficiently, everyone seems to have their rightful place where they need to be at the right time. Another example that we'd like to talk about is the Manchester Airports Group, or MAG. They handle 60 million passengers a year across 200 plus destinations, and their mission is to become the world's most intelligent digital airport. In just 24 weeks, they proved that computer vision on existing CCTV could detect aircraft, vehicle and ground equipment on runways, driving real operational efficiencies. If you could deliver that across all the airports across the world, that would be amazing, because most of my delays in travelling are because of things on runways that are not typically detected. I live in London, and as I've said about 15 times now, and one of the things that was really great about coming up today was that kind of sense of community when you get off the train and people are pointing where to go in order to get around. That is precious in itself. If you underpin that with all the goodness that we're doing as organisers and deliverers to this platform in terms of driving a sense of community underpinned by infrastructure that works, by using data that can enable you to make it even better, I think it's pretty powerful. One more example before I ask my two esteemed colleagues to get on the stage is the London North Eastern Rail. LNER has launched a 5-year AI strategy with AWS as their innovation partner, and they're tackling fragmented data across 200 plus suppliers, and delays that used to take 18 months are being dramatically reduced. So AI-powered delay prediction, again, from a commuter's perspective, can only be a good thing. And I'm assuming everyone, used some form of transport to get here. So hopefully, if you're here next year, all of these benefits will start delivering. So you'll arrive with an even bigger smile on your face, and some of you now have in the audience. I think it's worthwhile probably just mentioning a bit more about what AWS does in the transport context. So we host the National Rail Inquiries and the Open Journey Planner for the Rail Delivery Group. Amazon Logistics is deploying AI and data analytics across ports, rail, road and e-cargo bikes. You might have seen some of those, like mooching around some of the cities across the UK. And the infrastructure for transformation is being built piece by piece and region by region. When you look at my broader business within AWS as well, the regional piece has never been more relevant. This isn't just decisions being made in isolation around a particular transport need. We are making regional decisions based on community need, and bringing all of that effort together from a data perspective is kind of what is going to elevate the things that, folks like our parents and our grandparents actually want. As kids grow up, we want them to get on the transport system and feel safe. Not necessarily saying it's going to be Big Brother forever, that we track our kids. That was very funny, sorry. I would like to be able to track you as you fall off that chair. But actually, the more data we can collect, we can just kind of have this safer, greater, more harmonious community that would benefit everyone. So the societal good that I've just been talking about is what AWS is all about. That's our genetic blueprint, underpinned by our leadership principles. the UK integrated transport strategy is an extraordinary opportunity for all of us, but we have to be honest about what it requires. So whilst the technologies are available and the methodologies are proven, we still need to all lean into that regional vision in order to really bring that alive. I can see some of you nodding, so hopefully that means that you're all in agreement, which means that we've already got our community and we can already make it work. So from my perspective, everything about transport is a bit of an unwritten, we don't really say it too vocally, it's about transforming lives, it's about strengthening community, about creating a sustainable prosperity from London to the Scottish Highlands, and it's about active creation. So this isn't just going to happen, it will happen with a willing mind, underpinned by a desire to really do what's right for all of us, not those of us that are just in this room. But from an AWS perspective, we very much look forward to partnering with you to try and bring this alive. I've talked really, really quickly, and we've probably got loads more time. So my two wonderful colleagues, Jen and Dave, are going to come up on stage to take any questions that you might have. Thank you very much. So now ask questions.
Are there any questions from the floor? Well, while you pluck up courage or don't fall off your seats, sir, maybe I'll post some and you can answer those yourself. You're not wired, are you? So, yeah, okay. So first of all, you kind of mentioned AWS. You also mentioned Amazon. That infrastructure, that backbone, is it exactly the same as you used to manage the Amazon business as you would somebody in Manchester running a bus system, for example?
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Sorry, Dave, go on.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
This mic's on. Yeah.
It is working. Yeah.
It's very much so. It's I mean, much of the Amazon Web Services infrastructure was actually built and born out of Amazon Retail.
Right.
And we've now 19 years of experience. And as our CEO says, there is no compression algorithm for experience. So
True.
yeah, all that infrastructure, all those technologies. And all of that innovation. And in fact, when I looked from the innovation angle, 90% of the services and the service features that we have within Amazon Web Services infrastructure is actually predicated and created by our customers.
Yeah.
So we take that feedback. Leanne spoke about our leadership principles. Customer obsession is one of our leadership principles, and I say that's an example of how we bring that back into the business.
Yes, I think that's a kind of comfort blanket, really, for everybody to know that the biggest kind of independent company in the world basically is using the same platform. So
and there are 17,000 public sector customers globally who are also using AWS architecture.
Do you want to add?
I just wanted to add, it comes down to the same thing as well, which is data. So if you think about an Amazon delivery, you're ordering your parcel online, where the fact that it's available to you, it's located close to you, we can get it to you the next day. The reason we can do any of that is because of the data that we collect, and it's exactly the same when it comes to looking at a bus network. Every problem is a data problem.
In fact, to keep on going with that example, because the session earlier was all about data capture. Most of it was after the event, as opposed to during the event. I mean, is it realistic to be able to change a bus timetable based on traffic, based on number of people on the previous bus? Have you seen active examples of where that's been implemented and changed what is a current network where it's every 6 minutes, whatever?
Yeah, so I think it's about real-time data, feeding the system and kind of being able to update it. So I think from a kind of bus perspective and public sector transport perspective, there's a way to go with that. It's not the easiest thing to do, but if you look at an Amazon van, an Amazon delivery, and you're looking at the last mile route, there is real-time data that feeds into that then, for example, if there's a disruption or for some reason there needs to be a change to that route, there is real-time data that feeds into that and allows that
so it's more of an aspiration for bus companies, but the data is there, it can happen.
Yes,
it's just up to them.
Can happen.
Okay.
It can happen.
And you also mentioned, Leanna, but you mentioned about working with specific bus companies, like B, for example. Have you examples of where you work with a whole authority, a whole region, to look at their infrastructure? I don't know who wants to answer that question.
I'll pass to you, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so. At a rail operator level, so we're working, as Leanne mentioned, with LNER and a number of the other TOCs.
Yeah.
And also with the passenger transport executives. So we work heavily with Transport for London,
Okay.
Transport for Greater Manchester. Obviously, was mentioned around the all of the B network is all powered and platformed on AWS. West Midlands. So yeah.
I mean, it's good that you're in an event like this because nobody sees that bit. They just see B,
Yeah.
and that's it. They don't actually know who partners it. I was asking around earlier if people knew, and they don't, which is good and bad, I guess, in a way.
Well, it's our customers that are doing the great work.
Yeah.
I say it just happens to be powered on AWS technologies.
And when you kind of engage with these partners, again, whoever wants to take the question, are they always clear about what they want? Is there always more that you could offer them? How does that balance work between obviously all the capability that you have versus their aspirations?
I mean, the technology is often the very last point of the conversation with our customers.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time both educating, enabling our customers, but actually working backwards from, again, one of our sort of cultural peculiarities is that we work backwards from very thorny problems.
Right.
And we help customers create those problems. Working backwards, we create press releases and FAQs, and then that all feeds back to ultimately the technology platform. But it's understanding our customers' major problems and thinking big and being audacious in how we address those challenges.
And if you're choosing Nirvana customer, is it somebody who doesn't know what they want or very clear about what they want and not sure how to get it? What's the perfect scenario for you?
Every customer's a perfect customer.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
if you cross the ball,
Yeah,
we're
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. 1-0.
Just to chip in on that one though, it's a really good question because actually if a customer knows explicitly what they want, so they know what the outcome needs to be, they've kind of done all the thinking, then actually it becomes a technology discussion.
Yeah.
Our favourite engagements to get involved in is where they don't actually know what the utopia or the ideal end state will be, or if there's like a real pain point that they need to tackle the pain point. They're the best customers for us to get involved in.
The reason why I'm saying that is because we had Chris Boardman on earlier this morning, and he was talking about transforming, bike lanes and all the rest of it, and you need the data to be able to work out where people live, where they need to go. But most people have put in their bus lanes propositions before they've ever engaged with a partner. And then it links with buses because obviously he was saying that if you go outside, he used the S word, but he said if you walk outside your house and the first connection is not very good, that means you never get to use the bus because you're already in the car. And so therefore the data prior to the project starting was key. So I was just wondering if, which way round. But I guess I know what you mean. It doesn't really matter. But in this case, I was just wondering if a partner is very clear, concise, we want to achieve this, it's easier to work with them than it is for somebody who's open to interpretation, open to what you've done before.
What we try to, particularly in the context of kind of regional government or like taking the concept of I don't know, someone or a community, or a commuter community.
Yeah.
So what we try to do as part of that working backwards process that Dave just touched on is look at all the different personas that might actually use that train.
Yeah.
So it could be the commuter that's in a rush. It could be the person who's got to go and pick their kids up or drop the kid off from school. They will have a very different requirement. So punctuality, reliability, cost, super important. Could be the student that's got to get to university and maybe have 3 or 4 different routes. So when we're trying to work backwards from what the customer need is, we then start to look at what the customer experience should be depending on those personas. And that typically then evolves the ideal technological outcome. But as Dave said, again, the technology is very rarely talked about up until the point where we try to bring it all alive.
And then there are obvious signs. I mean, I got off the train at Euston, got on at Euston, got off at Piccadilly, got onto the bus, and immediately it had all the train times on it. And I thought, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Am I going to be in time? Will I make that one? Do I change my ticket and get the later one? And I'm sure that wasn't part of the scheme to begin with. I'm sure it's just about getting buses being available.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, though. The best thing with in being involved across regional deployments and initiatives is that iteration. So we're never, like us lot from AWS, are never, or any tech company actually, going to be able to create the end state at the get-go, because then it's a bit big bang, so that brings a bit risk, is that too risky? But deploying something like a minimal, lovable product that we can then ideate and refine and tweak depending on whether you need to pick children up, or I need to go and pick an elderly parent up, or I know there's a huge corporate environment that needs to service a particular type of customer. All of that will come out through iteration and evolve.
So sorry, I've hogged it a bit. Any more questions? Another opportunity? No? Probably for each of you, and maybe it's the same, I don't know who wants to argue this one, but if you were leaving something with the guys here about what AWS has to offer, over and above what you've already said, Leanne, is there anything that you would leave them with, considerations, areas that maybe they haven't considered working with you on? I mean, we all know that you've got the data, we all know that you can create the backbone, but is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with, the transport industry with?
Come to us with your thorniest, ugliest, most challenging problems, and let us help work together for the benefit of UK PLC and our customers and the travellers.
There's an offer. You've got a picture of him, so this is who you're going to come and see when you have those
Our
problems.
stand is just at the entrance to the exhibition hall when you come in, so please come and spend some time with us. We'd love to help address some of those challenges.
Brilliant. Any last minute, any questions? No? In that case, I'm going to thank the guys from AWS coming. I know it's a daunting task sometimes if it's the first time you've done it, so that came across really well, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will come and see you. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks for your time. Thank you.